Today, I want to talk to you about the most important thing about your finances, and that is the fact that Donald J. Trump is mixing things up and messing things up and making it really hard for us to have any financial security. Now, I know that there still happens to be like tens of millions of Americans who have not woken up to this point, but there are some of us who have. And as a result, as much as I could put topics out there that help you build a financial future, those tips and instructions only work when we have somebody in the White House who respects our Constitution and actually puts the needs of the American people first. Donald J. puts his needs first. And it is very clear he is not adhering to the Constitution. Since I happen to know a lot of things about the national debt, the federal budget, programs like Social Security, I could go on and on. I think right now is the most important time for us to focus in on what some of those changes are and to create strategies that we can use and explore to help America get through this, because Donald J. is also messing with the whole world order. He's making the entire planet insecure. We are steadily losing our security, and we cannot wait too long. Now, do I hope I'm wrong about all this? Yeah. And if I am, I'll surely admit it. But the fact of the matter is, I don't believe I am at all. So, I'm going to start publishing, in addition to our standard information, more politically oriented videos. And this is the first among them. If you, like me, and tens of millions of other Americans, and tens of millions of people around the world are also worried about what's going on in the White House, I want you to stick around, because we're going to talk about a strategy on how we can do something. Let's get to it. Point number one, I am going to put some resources below so that you can start reaching out to your representatives. I am also going to encourage you to reach out to people who are on Capitol Hill who might not represent you. After Trump's little tirade with Zelensky in the Oval Office, which I still cannot believe how many Republicans support this behavior, if their children treated somebody on the playground like that, someone who had been beat up a couple of times and then decided to bully them some more, how many parents out there would support that? We all know the difference between right and wrong, and for some reason, some of our fellow Americans have forgotten that point. I'm going to be doing a video about how we might, because I'm still working through some of these strategies, but how we might get the truth out to our other Americans. But more about that later. After Trump and Vance attacked Zelensky in the Oval Office, I contacted absolutely every one of the Republican senators, all 53 of them, and I charged them with doing something. They know, as well as we know, that our entire government and our structure and our security in the world is being diminished because we have a madman in the White House. They took an oath to protect and defend from enemies within. I encourage you to do it too. Please. We all need to get involved to the greatest degree possible. This problem will not go away until we the people, come together and start moving the government in the direction we need them to go. I'm going to share with you some more information about how we can get involved, what we can do, what resources I found. I'm hoping you'll share them with me. But for today, I want to share with you something that occurred recently. After I contacted all 53 Republicans, I started to get some responses, and most of them were pretty lame. But I can't even put a most in there. There's no qualifier. If I got a response, it was lame. And I made private messages to some of them, like Ted Cruz. I said in 2016, you had a conscience, you had a soul. You knew right from wrong. And I have to believe somebody like that still exists in there. I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but Ted Cruz literally at the Republican National Convention stood up and told everyone that Trump was a threat. By 2020, he stood on the Senate floor supporting this whole fake elector scheme. None of them really got back to me with a reasonable response, and I was posting them on my Facebook page. And one of my friends said, you know what? I reached out to my representative, and this is what she sent me back. This response is from Michelle Fischbach. She represents basically all of western Minnesota, like along the North and South Dakota border. Here you can see her getting sworn in with Kevin McCarthy. Yes, Mr. Right after the insurrection, gosh, Trump is horrible. And then 2 days later, he runs down there and kisses the ring. He was Speaker of the House and then got kicked out. I don't know if any morals exist in this party, but if there are any, I'm going to encourage you to contact them so we can try to shake it up. But back to Michelle. I also found this at her website. As you can see, on February 25th, 3 days before Trump and Vance gaslit and bullied Zelensky in the Oval Office, she voted for this horrible Republican budget bill that will take $1 trillion, almost $1 trillion, out of Medicaid. Health care for the poor. What these people should be doing is trying to find a way that we can all have better health care, not reducing health care. Back to Michelle's response. I'm going to just leave it on the screen. I'm not going to read it for you. But she's clearly living in a delusional world. DOGE is not helping us. We never asked for this. We don't want it. And her constituent reached out to her for help. And instead of helping, she offered up a bunch of the same lies that were being told. My friend did not feel comfortable contacting Michelle again, but I did. And here's what I told her. One of your constituents emailed me your pathetic response to her concerns. You might object to the use of my word pathetic. I think it is. I think it's wholeheartedly pathetic to not even address her concerns. My friend has a right and a reason to be worried right now. Back to my letter. You tried to tell her what is happening with Musk, Trump, and DOGE, or as some people say, doggy. I guess a lot of Google readers call it doggy. Back to the letter. DOGE is helping the United States people. I hope you know you couldn't be more wrong. Point 1, they have not proven any waste, fraud, or abuse. This is true. In fact, if it was fraud is illegal. There'd be criminal cases. They haven't told us how any of this is wasteful spending. It's also important to note that most of what Elon Musk has put up on Twitter has been lies, and most of it has had to be removed from the doggy webpage. Off to point number 2. What they are doing is illegal. Musk is not appointed or elected. For anyone to have this much control in our U.S. federal government, they are supposed to be appointed by the president and the Senate is supposed to confirm them. None of this has been done. In fact, as far as I know, none of the doggy staff has even had any background checks. Back to the letter. Point number 3. It is unconstitutional. Congress made appropriations and the president signed it into law. If you and Trump want to change, pass a freaking law. This is how it works. I mean, after all, Republicans have control of the Senate and the House. Pass a law. In fact, sometimes they want to say, well, this same thing happened under Clinton, and I'm going to do a video about counteracting all this stuff. There was a law, and Clinton worked with Congress, and it took several years. It was strategic. Back to this. Point number 4, it is not democratic. I have a vote, and your constituent has a vote. In fact, more of us voted against Trump than for him. And we don't want this. That's true too. Now, granted, Trump won the popular vote. But if you add together all the Harris voters and all the other independent voters, that is a bigger voting bloc than Trump. I'll give you those numbers below too, in the doobly-doo. Another thing that's very important to keep in mind is the fact that the biggest voting bloc were those who didn't vote. It's about 90 million people, way more than Trump. He does not have a mandate. Back to the letter. Point number 5, any savings they might have created will go to court cases and lawsuits. This is ridiculous. I don't think a lot of Trump voters know how many court cases are going on because of the scope of illegal activities. And this doesn't even include the corruption that's going on in the Trump administration. Things like having the U.S. Treasury buy crypto, the fact that they've fired 17 inspector generals who are designed to actually make sure that there's no corruption. There's so many court cases going on in the Trump administration, it's hard to keep it straight. And the entity that could rein all of this in happens to be the one that's under Article 1 that Fischbach is part of, who's not doing anything. Back to the letter. Number 6, you voted to rob Americans of health care to give Elon Musk a bigger tax break. Pretty sure no one who voted for you wants that. After all, they keep lying about the fact that that's what they're doing. Back to the letter. Number 7, Trump is a Russian asset and risks all our liberties by turning on our allies. Now you might think me calling Trump a Russian asset is extreme, but I am going to tell you, and I will note the facts in the description below, that in 2016, under the Mueller investigation, we found that indeed he did collude with the Russians, that his campaign was in contact with them multiple times, and who knows how many times Trump has even been in contact with Putin over the 4 years he wasn't in office. He stole government secrets and put them in a bathroom. Everything that he is doing indicates that he is in collusion with Russia. This is a national security risk. Back to the letter. Do your job. You are elected to represent the people. We pay you for that. If you cannot do what is necessary to protect us from tyranny, resign so that someone else can help us. Thank you. That letter might be too bold for you. The reason that I share this with you is because I believe that all of these 7 points are very valuable and valid. Every single Republican should hear them over and over again. I'd like to say that every single Trump supporter should hear them over and over again. But many of our Trump supporters don't understand basic civics. The people who represent us know and understand this. Now, some of them might be under the delusion of Trump, but I have to believe there's many people out there who understand the risk that we're under. I spoke to a friend in Canada today. I've got lots of Canadian friends now. Mexicans and Canadians and the entire world is afraid. And if you're not afraid, You're not paying attention. I know it's easy to check out of this. It's hard to be in it. But if we don't do something, this is not going to be good. So that's why I'm putting this together, and that's why this channel is taking a change. So join me, will you please? Start contacting them. I live in a community where there's a lot of retirees, and not many of them are doing anything. We're like afraid. We're sitting under bubbles, but we can't stay there very long. The longer Trump is there, the worse this is going to get. If you agree with me even a little bit on any of this, please subscribe. I'm going to be putting out there a lot of good information for you so that we can do this together. We can. I have a lot of hope that there's more of us who really care and are going to get involved. And I do think that we can sway our Trump brothers and sisters, at least more than a couple. And that's going to be my next video. Talk to you soon.